In Washington, D.C., House lawmakers have delayed a vote on the Rotor Act until Tuesday.
The legislation is aimed at ensuring flight safety after the tragic midair collision last January. Today, the House debated the bill ahead of the vote tomorrow. Dylan Domingue has been following the progression of the Rotor Act and joins us with more.
Rachel Jacob, today the House lawmakers said they've waited to vote on the Rotor Act until after the NTSB released their final investigation into that crash. But some lawmakers said the Rotor Act only addresses some of these safety recommendations and are supporting a different flight safety bill introduced just last week in the House, known as the Alert Act. So the newly introduced Alert Act would require collision avoidance systems to be upgraded on aircrafts. It would also improve helicopter route designs and enhance air traffic control training. The House says the Alert Act considers all of the NTSB's findings and tackles the issues the Rotor Act does not. However, this weekend, the chairwoman of the NTSB posting on social media that anyone who says they support the Alert Act and that it fully addresses the NTSB's recommendations is wrong, and that they are working with committees to address those concerns. Now, the NTSB and the families of Flight 5342 have urged the House to pass the Rotor Act. The House is expected to vote on it tomorrow. Rachel?